welcome to the F Word podcast brought to you by Entertain Facts. I am your host, Simply G, and with me is Nick and Anthony. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
I'm doing swell. Thank you for asking.
Wow, swell on top of it.
Didn't realize it was 1957, but that's great.
By golly, gee, that's
I'm doing
swell.
Great.
You're doing great?
Yeah,
Good.
1992.
You know what? I'm also doing better than average. I'm going to throw that one out
nice.
there. Yes.
Well done.
You know, we're going to switch things up a little bit. There was some news this week, one of which, two things. Matt Reeves was talking about how Batman may not be in the DCEU, but what he clarified the next day on Twitter was that it's going to be in that universe. It's just not going to be connected to the overall storyline of the DC.
Like Wonder Woman.
Like Wonder Woman. But Wonder Woman was, it was still connected because they still showed that Batman, like that picture in the beginning and that her email with Bruce Wayne and stuff. But I think what he's thinking is like, this is just Batman. Just him, just his people, so on and so forth. And then the other one was Martin Scorsese is looking to direct or produce, or both, a Joker standalone movie. Again, won't be part of the DCEU. What I want to talk about today, though, is it getting too confusing? Are these cinematic universes, continuity, so on and so forth, overtaking, I guess, the way the creative landscape of movies are today? Nick, you started off with the Star Wars saga.
Yeah.
Anthony, when you were younger, Iron Man was coming out and the idea of the cinematic universe was born. Or was like, that was the beginning of it. For me, it was trilogies, right? We had X-Men 1, 2, and 3 because that happened. Lord of the Rings. So it was a trilogy-based thing, the occasional sequel. Do you think that it's going too far while these studios are looking, instead of for the next sequel, they're looking for that next cinematic universe?
Okay, I guess I'll start off. But so back in the day, the problem was with movies is they'd always try and set up the sequel before they establish the original. But now, especially DC.
Hold on, back in the day, how long are we talking?
When I was 5, sure. 2005 or whatever.
Okay.
But then now people are starting to think about, let's not create a movie, like example, The Mummy, let's create some cinematic universe. Or with Godzilla, let's not create just a good movie. Let's start creating a big universe with monsters and all this. Because they're trying to copy what Marvel did, but everyone else has found out, you can't just rush into it, have them just collide in the second movie, and then have a Justice League movie come out for the fourth one. It just doesn't work like that. But DC has some success, they're making loads of money, but the movies are plummeting because of it.
Right. When you take out all the other things that they have, I mean, the comic books have always been the consistent thing. Nick, coming from a generation that were, when you think trilogy, I'm assuming you're thinking Star Wars saga, you're thinking that
Star
big.
Wars Rocky was another big one as well.
Rocky was
right?
huge, yeah.
In my generation. I think the word cinematic universe, I think the phrase, is a nice way of saying a director's approach.
Okay.
So I think you have, for example, the early Batman movies were done, with Michael Keaton, whatever, right? Yep. And then you had another universe, where it was Val Kilmer or whatever, or now with, Christian Bale, right?
Sure. Yeah,
it's another universe, but it's more so just a director's take, but they're making it and I'm not as aware of the comic lore as maybe you two are, and I'm sure there are different universes, but I think it's just a different perspective from directors, and it's phrased as a different universe, and it's just I think a different way of doing the movie. I don't know if that's way off, but I just kind of, the way I look at it, I mean, just like Rocky back in the day, right? They did that movie, and then there was Apollo Creed, right? Or there was the next Balboas, right? Yeah. So not that it's another universe per se, but it's another perspective, right?
Okay.
And I think that's kind of what they're doing now, but I don't know.
Yeah, with the Marvel prototype that they have, because they've created this universe thing, it is a case of now the movies are translating into what TV is. Mm-hmm. You watch 2-3 seasons, much like Marvel has their different phases, and you watch these seasons, you get to know these characters, you care about these characters, and then it's, when do they meet? When does this mix with that? So on and so forth.
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones is another one, right? Now they're when the Marvel, Netflix Marvel stuff, that's just TV. Mm-hmm. That's how TV usually is. CW with their Arrow, now they got their crossovers and everything like that. And
Worlds are colliding.
Worlds are colliding, yeah. Deep Seinfeld reference there. That's a deep cut.
You're killing Independent George.
But it's interesting right now because everyone's running after that cinematic universe because that's what they think is going to be where the big money is. But the average person, a lot of the times, they have no idea what's connected to what.
Yeah.
You were talking about, the Nolan Batman, the Val Kilmer Batman, even the Clooney one or whatever, and those were different takes on that by, again, allowing a couple directors to be like, this is what my vision is.
Yeah.
This is what mine is, and so on, and allowing them to just live within the trilogy or within the two movies without having to think about, okay, let's think 20 years down the road. Let's think 10 or so forth. So it's actually really interesting. Do you think it's a detriment? Now, for yourself, Anthony, who's again, you're born in this. We've simply adopted this.
Yeah.
You were born into this. You were molded by this universe.
That's how I saw the sequels. I was merely I forgot the quote from Bane.
Would you say it was the bane of your existence?
I don't get it.
It's a pun. Bane.
Almost.
Yeah.
Well, you'd have to see if it was something negative.
It.
I mean, yeah, okay.
I get paid by puns here, so I'm going to take that one.
But that's his job.
Yeah.
But no, what I'm asking is, like, as you're seeing it, even you as a person who's well-versed in the lore, knows what's going on.
Somewhat.
But to an extent, right? Like, your average person, I mean, I can ask my fiance, and she's like, wait a minute, who's this person? Are they with this movie, or are they with this movie?
Yeah.
Are you finding now, after the inception of Iron Man, to what we're getting into phase 4 of this cinematic universe, which is really a Herculean task in itself, do you think it's getting too much?
Well, as I mentioned last episode, I'm getting pretty tired of superheroes because I'm just they're getting really overdone, and the stories are kind of you've seen it before. They're really predictable. They're really kind of what's going to happen. The stakes are never really high in superhero movies because they'll die one movie. I mean, in The Winter Soldier, Nick Fury dies, but not even the next movie. By the end of that movie, he's already back.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like Marvel's kind of not going down, but they're kind of ending this kind of whole chapter of the cinematic universe, and I feel like I think I heard that they're starting to plan the new Avengers or whatever.
Definitely with Spider-Man.
So they're gonna have it's gonna be kind of different stories to me, kind of a whole new different kind of movie franchise in its own in the kind of same cinematic universe.
Right.
So I'm excited for that. But I feel like everybody's just trying to copy the one thing, and just I want diversity. Like John Wick, that isn't a cinematic universe. It doesn't have to be, but it's still good movies.
And those are great. Well, and speaking of John Wick, I mean, with the second one, they're not expanding on John Wick as a character. What I like is that they actually expanded a lot on the Continental, this world, this assassin world that encompasses where John Wick comes from.
TV show coming out, they're going to go even more in depth.
They're going to go even more in depth. Nick, on a business standpoint, if I were to tell you that you can make billions and billions of dollars, because you are a businessman, if you were going to make, if I was going to say, yeah, you can make one movie and maybe make, $200 million, $400 million, or we've got a plan where we can make billions of dollars in the course of 10 years. From a business standpoint, it almost makes sense. That's why the sequels aren't working, because it's a one and done, as opposed to just milking that cow.
You're hedging your bet, right? Is what you're doing by having more different movies or whatever. You're hoping that they'll gain more traction, you'll get more fans and it slowly builds or whatever, rather than putting all your eggs in one basket and ended up being Medellin from Entourage, right? Which totally tanked.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, from a business standpoint, for sure, because then you have the opportunity later on to do, the other side stuff, like, the action figures and blah, blah. So, from a business point of view, for sure, long-term continuity and making sure you hedge your bet, so to speak. But,
Do you consider yourself an average moviegoer?
Yeah, I would say a little below average.
But okay,
just life gets busy, right?
Yeah, of course. Of course. Well, and that's the thing with this podcast. We got 3 different generations, all at 3 different stages of our lives that are talking about this thing. So, for yourself, have you found it difficult? Like, I know you being friends with us, you get to pick up on things, much like I get to pick up on things from you, Anthony, and then from my brother and other people.
Yeah.
Are you finding that it is a little bit difficult to try to keep track on what timeline are we even in? Who's involved with what?
Yeah.
And does this connect to the other thing? Again, going back to Matt Reeves' discussion on Batman being on its own thing, most people are going to be like, is this part of the DCU? Are we going to see Wonder Woman? Because his thing was, no other superheroes are coming in.
Yeah.
So you finding it hard?
Absolutely. I mean, unless you have that background knowledge, which I never claimed I did.
Yeah.
I know I don't.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, for me, I find it interesting, and I'll always ask you guys, and I'll be like, okay, so what is the deal with this? Like,
Yeah.
why are these guys coming up now? Like, whatever. But yeah, I definitely do find it confusing.
Quick thing to add, because you reminded me, we went to see X-Men Apocalypse.
Oh yeah.
No, it was, what was the last one? Days of Future Past.
Apocalypse was the last one, but before that was Days.
So we went to see that, and the end credit scene was the Three Horsemen or whatever.
Yeah.
And he
Four
stood, like,
Horsemen,
he
yeah.
yelled in the middle of the Four Horsemen. He yelled in the middle of the movie theater. Okay, nobody's leaving until they tell me who they are.
I had no idea. Yeah.
Well, and the only way that they've been able to somewhat connect anything is through the end
Teasers.
credit scenes.
Yeah, the teasers. At
And
the
now
end.
they're not even just at the end of the credits. There's 3 in them, but like,
There's like
you've
5
got your
Guardians.
one right after the movie, then
Yeah.
you've got one after the main titles with your actors, producers, directors, and then when they get to everybody else, then you see your final one, which is supposed to connect it. Sometimes it doesn't. In the case of Spider-Man: Homecoming, it was just hilarious. Deadpool's was more of a nod to the 80s.
Or Logan, who had it before the movie even started.
Which one?
Logan.
Oh yeah, he had it before the movie even started. I don't remember that. Why am I
Deadpool.
blanking? Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry. And so it's kind of it's getting a little bit tougher to piece these together now because we're kind of, again, myself making the notes and everything like that, and yourself with the page, and even you just being around us, you kind of absorb the information and you kind of get what's going on. But it's getting hectic. And there's less real estate to be able to produce these stories that are interconnected. So did you think that you needed, for instance, Spider-Man, for the general public to realize that this is part of it? They've got this deal with Sony. Did you feel you needed Iron Man in there to help you, or were you just like, I'm going to go anyways because I like Spider-Man, because I already saw Civil War, and I already know he's a part of the whole thing?
For me, I would have gone either way. I
Yeah.
didn't care that Iron Man was in there. I didn't think it was that
Mm-hmm.
big of a deal. Clearly, it's part of the storyline, and whatever.
It's connected, yeah.
But I mean, and again, this is just another take on the story or whatever that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, yeah, it didn't matter that he was in there or not. I just, now with all the different Spider-Mans though, I'm like, okay, like now I'm overwhelmed. Like, okay, there's
Yeah.
so many different versions and stuff. But
And that's why, though, right? They
Yeah.
brought Iron Man in to say this isn't
Your
Sam
typical version.
Raimi. This isn't the
Yeah.
other one. This is the one that's connected to the universe.
Yeah.
So are you finding that's like? Did you have people saying like, "Wait a minute, is this connected? Or is it its own movie?" Or your general group of friends outside of us was just kind of like, "Yeah, it's another Spider-Man movie. Who cares?"
it's another version of
another
Spider-Man.
version, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's the consensus that all of my
Yeah.
friends had too. So like
Yeah.
the older guys, right, that kind of watch it. But yeah, for me, it didn't matter. I would have gone to see it just because it is Spider-Man, right? You have
Right.
your favorites that you watch, so
And you'll just enjoy it.
And you'll enjoy it.
And they use that
and
now.
you don't
to-
care. You're not going to go
Yeah.
back and be like, "Oh, I remember in the first one this happened," like
Right.
with Tobey Maguire or whatever, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
not going to sit there and compare. For me, it's just a different version, different storyline, and you're just going to enjoy it for what it is.
Does it enhance the fact that it is part of the overarching storyline that they've created since 2008?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it helps. It's kind of like, okay, this is the next episode in our series
Right.
of what is the MCU.
Yeah, I think it would have been better if Macho Man Savage came in. I know he's
Hey, man,
passed away.
That
Rest
was
in peace.
huge.
But like
One of
that
the best
was,
cameos.
Dave Bautista could have came in.
Dave Bautista could have come in. Yeah.
Well,
There you
Dave
go.
Bautista
John
though is
Cena.
Drax, right? So everyone's gonna be like,
Yeah.
"Wait a minute, is this
Yeah.
Drax?" For
Good
you,
call.
Anthony, on that. Do all of your friends know what's going on in your age group? Do they all have are they all kind of, they have their fingers on the pulse? They know exactly who's in what and what's going on for them.
Oh yeah.
So, do you find that even they're getting to that point where it's like it just keeps adding and adding and adding, and now they're just waiting for the originals to die? Because right now we're almost waiting. Captain America is apparently not going to make it out of the Infinity War movies. Robert Downey Jr. has been, as he said, semi-retired for a while, and they're getting rid of the originals, and they're going to start moving forward with other ones. Do you think it's good to keep going, keep that money train going, or would you personally, as a fan of the material, just say, okay, let's just, once these guys go, let's find a way to end it?
As I said before, I don't want them to end it completely.
Right.
But I do want them to get rid of the old,
Yep.
bring in the new, and do something different.
Yeah.
I don't want because you've seen Iron Man for almost 10 years now in these movies.
Yeah.
And he's basically had this whole invincible shield. I saw the joke about Game of Thrones, how they go into like the winter place. I forget what it's called, like North of the Wall.
Yeah,
right?
North of the Wall. Yeah.
You know, like they're not gonna die. You have like 7 main characters in there. It's like Infinity War. You know, not everybody's gonna die. All the main characters are gonna be fighting some big bad guy. Like they have every single movie.
Sure. Yeah.
They threaten the Earth like every single movie.
Mm-hmm.
Someone may die, but they'll probably come back later, just as in every single movie,
Mm-hmm.
and then they somehow save the day.
So then, on a story stand, like we talked about this last week with Luc Besson's quote saying that, you know, Captain America is propaganda in these movies, I'm tired of it, and so on and so forth. You know, on the one hand, we were talking about how he was, you know, pretty much hurt because his story that he devoted a lot of his life to didn't do very well because people are just waiting for this next, like, to see the next episode of this Marvel universe. And now with the DC universe, maybe he's not 100% wrong on that, because it is getting to that point where, you know, there are a lot of stories. They've got thousands of comics out there, and they can tell any kind of story they want. But like you said, do they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger until it just becomes ridiculous? And for you guys, is that something that you'd want?
No.
Yeah.
I'm in
same boat.
Like, I watch all these TV shows, I watch all these movies, and to be honest, they're just getting boring.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done. I'm not adding any more superhero shows onto my list. The Defenders, I saw the trailer, wasn't interested by it.
It was pretty
Inhumans
good.
is coming out, not interested by it.
Right.
CW, that's it. I'm not going to add, like, I think they have Black Lightning coming out, not interested. I'm not adding anything else. Once those die, I am done. Too many shows, too many seasons.
Too much of a commitment.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's the other thing for yourself as a husband and a father.
Yeah.
You know, even for this show, it's like, you know, if you get a chance, take a look at it. We can talk about it, but there aren't enough hours in the day. What are you going to sit there and watch Defenders for 8 hours while your daughter's crying and
Well,
needs her diaper changed or needs food or something?
Well, exactly. And like at the same token, are you going to limit your entire watching of TV or movies to one genre? Like, no, that's not. You know, I'm a Suits guy. I'm, you know, like I like different shows, different movies, whatever. So for me to, like Anthony says, invest in people that I've never even heard of, and just for the sake of saying I watched the series, no, it doesn't appeal to me, and I think it's a little overdone. And I think a lot of people are in the same boat. And you know, you'll recognize your Spider-Mans, your Batmans, your Supermans, your Wonder Woman, whatever you want. And yeah, you'll go to those. You might invest, you know, $20 in a couple of hours and go watch it in the theater.
Yep.
But to sit there and say I'm going to watch 20 episodes per season and, you know, half hour, an hour each, no, I don't think anyone will. But
well, and that's why movies like, when we've mentioned on the show a lot of times, movies like Logan, movies like Winter Soldier, you know, those are movies, specifically those two, that really go out of their way to make themselves, this is a different movie. It's touching on different things, again, like the political thriller, or again, the way
movies.
Logan was. It was a great indie movie.
Yeah.
And the superhero part was very contained in a very humanistic story. Now, there's obviously the X-Men part of it. So then going back to the Matt Reeves discussion about him doing it just Batman on its own, maybe that is a right way to do it. Maybe the Joker standalone movie is better. Don't connect everything.
yeah,
Just go see a movie and let it be.
exactly.
So do you think that's a better idea then? I mean, they're still going to keep going with the DCEU. They still need to make money.
Yeah.
But for you as a viewer, would you invest more time into be like, I'll actually go out and watch this Batman movie just knowing that it starts and it ends where it starts and ends?
Exactly. And like, there's a couple of years in between if there is a sequel or whatever. For I think a lot of people, I think it really is a commitment, right? Like,
Of course it is.
It's too much. Like, you know,
especially if you're getting into it late.
well, yeah, exactly. Like for me now to go 7 seasons of Game of Thrones, like that's like you said, a Herculean task to walk in there and be like, okay,
I'm starting
start
from
all
scratch.
over, and you hear tidbits or whatever, right? So like for me, it's different. You guys have been immersed into it, and you're into it, whatever, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like, and again, like you said, I'm married, I have a kid, right? For me, when I was younger, a little about your age, I was watching Smallville, right? 10 seasons. You know, I got into it. I'm like, okay, and I was about 6 seasons back, right?
Yeah.
But I went through and I watched it. Yeah, I had the time. But to sit there and say, now I'm going to do that with every single hero movie or show or whatever. A movie, yeah, it's 2 hours. I know what I'm doing. It's beginning and end, and I'm good. Yeah, I don't know. But
Anthony, are you finding, because I mean, you're younger than us, so in theory, let's say you have more time, but you're also working, you're going to school, you're playing sports and all that stuff. That commitment is probably, you are, like you mentioned with the Defenders, I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to watch this stuff. And would you prefer, like Nick was saying, he prefers it. Would you prefer to just go see that one movie, or maybe one movie in a sequel? Do you think maybe there is room for just that? Just I can go in there, not think about is this connected, who's connected to what, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I don't have the time or the interest. Like, I'm a kid who, if I watch something, I have to be interested in it. Or if I'm like Game of Thrones took me about a year to watch, just because I kept on losing interest, and then I gained it back a month later. So I think last year, just before, after the end of season 6 is when I finally caught up with the whole series. But the superhero genre now is just everything's the same in my opinion. It's just all the same. I don't really care about this war. Yeah. They're just both kind of getting dull to me.
Oh no, I have a superpower. What am I going to do? How am I going to fit in?
Well, and I think the way that they need to change it now is that because after Civil War they had their fallout, right? Yeah. So they need to find a way to close the book on these characters because we've been with them for a while. Because for me, the worst thing is not having at least some sort of a payoff. Yeah, I'm a little bit tired, but I'm still going to go see them because I'll see this one versus a DC movie because I've invested more time in these MCU movies. Yeah. Now, on the DC side, maybe it's a little too late, but there's always that generation of people younger than you now that their whole life is waiting for these movies. So then do you think you're going to get to our position and I'm going to get to your position where, what's already starting to happen where it's you go to the occasional one, just let one be one movie because I don't want to care about the new Avengers. The buck stops at Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, and the original guys. And DC, I'll watch it, but I won't be devoted to it. Is that kind of where your line of thinking is?
Well, not really. Since I'm already I think about it as I'm so far into the Marvel Cinematic Universe that if I stop watching it, it's kind of a waste. Right. So I'll finish off where I'm going. With DC, I do like DC characters a lot. I like them more than Marvel characters. Okay. So obviously I liked Batman vs Superman just because they had
just Batman v Superman. Exactly. Yeah, they're just that fighting scene. That alone was good enough for you. Yeah.
So I like those movies. I'm not going to say they're masterpieces or they're cinematic. They should win Oscars or you got to push Wonder Woman to get an Oscar because no. Right. There's obviously going to be better movies that deserve Get Out deserves an Oscar over Wonder Woman in my opinion. Okay. All these better movies, but I feel people take they're too hyped up now because I said something bad about I think it was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. People oh no, you're wrong, because it had
no, you're not wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong,
Brian. Because it's Marvel and it's so good. I'm no, because if people just go in there with that headspace thinking this is a Marvel movie, it's gonna be great. I don't care what people say.
Well, and Marvel's coasting. Marvel can just keep producing these movies because they've passed that hump. So, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I want to touch on another thing too before we move on to the TV side of it. What I want to talk about is the rate at which we're getting this information. I was talking to a good buddy of mine about music. And Ethan, if you're listening, yes, you're the good buddy of mine that I was talking to. We were talking about how when we were younger, the music that we were listening to, we'd wait for a Tuesday for, I don't know, Eminem's new album. Yeah. For me, it was let's say a Queen's album that was coming out, which Queens of the Stone Age is coming out with a new album today. Sweet. But anyways, and we had 2 weeks, 3 weeks or whatever, and we played the hell out of that album. Yeah. And it stuck. I still remember the album from start to finish on a lot of them back then. But now, there's a couple songs that I'll remember, but it doesn't stick as much. We know that in terms of the Iron Man will never go away. That first one, we'll always remember that one. We'll always remember, some people forget First Avenger. But people won't forget really Winter Soldier or Civil War, the bigger ones that really meant something to us. Yeah. Do you think because now they're doing 4, 5, 6 superhero movies a year, we just won't care anymore? We'll watch it, we'll enjoy it, and then it's gone. It won't have that lasting impression.
Go ahead. I just agree with everything you said. There's not much I really want to add on, but I feel they're making so many movies, kind of what Nick said a couple podcasts ago. They're throwing so many movies at you that you kind of just don't have enough time to kind of think about it.
To absorb it, yeah.
The Force Awakens, you had a year before the next Star Wars came out, so you could really think and enjoy it. Yeah. With Rogue One, you still have another year before the new one comes out, so you can think about how good that one was. So you have time to actually let it linger in your brain, think about what happened. Yeah.
I think what a lot of people are finding now is, like you said, there's so many different movies out there, so many different versions of movies, and so when you get to, let's say, the second Iron Man, by the time the first one happened, then you had another couple of movies, so you're okay, now I gotta go back and refamiliarize myself, so I'm gonna watch the first one again, because I've seen all these other different ones and be
Right.
like, okay, where did it end here?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's like almost a double commitment now, because
Yeah.
you're like, okay,
Do I have to double back?
I got to double back. I
Yeah,
got to
yeah,
sit
yeah,
there
yeah.
and refamiliarize myself with it, because now I've seen like so many different aspects of Iron Man or Thor, for
Right,
example,
right,
which
right.
like, you know, now I'm going to go back and be like, I'll watch the second one again before this one comes out to kind of refamiliarize what happened, you know, whatever. So I think that's what a lot of people are going to be finding. I don't mind it personally. Again, a movie, you know, it's going to be 2 or 3 hours. It's start to finish, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think, you know, that's a major deal. But I think that's what a lot of people might get annoyed by and be like, okay, I'm lost now, because I remember Thor from Avengers, but I remember his plot from his own, so I got to go back.
Right. What was he
Yeah.
up to? What was he doing?
Yeah, is he still with Natalie Portman? God, I hope so.
Yeah. Do you?
know? Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of that relationship.
No?
I didn't feel it had any. Didn't have as much a good chemistry. I'm not a
Yeah.
big fan of Gwyneth Paltrow, but I thought at least her and Tony Stark had good chemistry.
Yeah.
The other thing too with this is, where do these fit in? I know a lot of people after Spider-Man came in, it's like, wait a minute. I know they showed the dates, but a lot of people are trying to figure out where it came in. The X-Men universe. Who the hell knows what the timeline is?
Yeah.
That thing's.
I'm lost on that,
There's
totally.
a great channel called Cinefix, and on there, one of the main guys, he was trying to point out. He actually drew it out on a thing, and everyone's like sitting there, like, "What? Where are we?" Right? Now, when it, and with that comes continuity, and now we go into like the Star Wars stuff, where it's like, okay, what's canon and what's not. Now, the Star Wars is a bit different because that's a saga following essentially one family story,
Yeah.
as opposed to following 8 or 9 different stories that then come together. But eventually, it does get confusing. Sorry.
Yeah.
And to piggyback off this conversation, we're going to go into some TV stuff, because I was talking to a friend of mine from Calgary about this past episode of Game of Thrones. You said you loved it.
Yep.
I was indifferent.
Yeah.
I thought it was okay. One, it wasn't as well directed. And now they have talks of their spin-offs. So now Game of Thrones is
course
going to
they
have
do.
a spin-off. Now they're not going to be. They're going to be connected, but they're not.
Yeah.
For me, I think there's a point, and I've talked about this regarding Breaking Bad, where a show overstays its welcome. Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you think that's happening now with the TV land, TV world?
I'm gonna answer this really quickly. I know you guys don't watch The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So I've been watching it, I think, since season 3. That's when I kind of caught up, which was like a while ago. Now it's on like season 8. And I used to be a diehard. Like, I have all the comic books. Like, I collect, the action figures they have.
I was surprised actually how much of a fan you were. Like, when I went to your place, I was like, "Holy crap!"
Like, I have Lucille signed by Michael Connell, this guy who got
So cool.
smashed by her. But this last season, people were like, "Oh, it's pretty good." I hated it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I watched the season finale until like 3 weeks after, so I just didn't care for it.
Right.
Because it's just like they're milking it for money now, and I can tell it's not like Game of Thrones where there's 10 episodes. Now there's like 16, and they're just like, they know people are gonna watch this. They did a whole season finale where you don't even know who died,
Right.
because they were just like, they'll come back anyway.
Right.
And I was talking to my friend, and after that season finale, he just found out who died, and he stopped watching because he was just tired of it.
Yeah.
And like, I want to, but this is another thing where I'm too invested in the
Committed.
series.
Yeah.
Exactly, it'd feel like a waste of time if I just stopped.
Yeah.
Nick, in terms of a show, let's say what Suits on its 8th season.
Yeah.
Do you think there was a point in that 8th season where you're just like, they could have wrapped it up? Like, are you finding now, aside from the fact that they've written the characters pretty good, but the scenarios that the characters are in don't warrant them to just keep going and going, because then it eventually becomes the same cycle. Like, that's what I found with Suits, at least getting into the 7th season
Yeah.
or so. I was like, okay, the 4th and the 5th season, going
Okay.
back a bit. I felt like they were recycling a lot of the same things. Are you
For sure.
finding that with Suits, and have you found that with any other shows?
I do find that with Suits. I think there's a point where you could have been like, okay, like, the first couple of seasons you probably could have done in one season and just
Okay.
kind of like,
Yeah,
you know what
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, yeah.
And narrowed it down. But
That's a
I
good
think
point.
in the beginning there was so much like love for Spectre
There was
and
hype.
Ross and
Yeah.
all them, right? But like for me, when you guys say like overstaying their welcome, the first show that popped into my head was Friends.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Huge following in the beginning, great. I personally think that most sitcoms, most series have a 5 or 6 season shelf life
Mm-hmm.
at the most. After that, you're scrambling A for new ideas, B for twists and plot turns and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it comes a point where you're like, and then you're just kind of annoying the fans. It's like, okay.
And there just seems to be like before I cut you off, Sarah, there, my bad. It just seems like, yeah, they are coming up with ridiculous things to just
Yeah.
just make it like unbelievable.
Exactly. Or they'll do a spin-off to try to like, garner like, okay, a different perspective. Like with Friends again, they did the Joey spin-off,
Right.
which
Didn't
was
work.
pointless,
Yeah.
right? So, like they're doing now with Breaking Bad or whatever it is.
Yeah.
They're thinking about doing that stuff. Or
Yeah, and Breaking Bad, I know that was more of like a hoax, but they did do Better Call Saul, which was a prequel.
Right.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't mind it because at least it's just, I think two or three seasons or whatever until they reach what happens in Breaking Bad, then it's done.
yeah.
The one that comes to mind for me is How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
That probably went off almost 4 seasons too far.
Yeah. Because that was 10 seasons,
That was
right?
10 seasons.
Yeah.
The other one was Lost.
Yeah.
Now you can Smallville was another one for
Like,
you.
okay, we get it. He's Superman. I think everybody figured it out.
Yeah, and it's almost like it's getting to that. Like a lot of these shows are just they get greenlit and they just say let's do it.
Yeah.
Which is why I always revert back to one of my favorite shows being that Breaking Bad, because eventually they're like, no, we're only going to 5 and we're done. I just rewatched it because they were playing it on TV on Sundays, and then I think I got up to like halfway through season 4. I was like, I'll just finish it watching it on Netflix.
Yeah.
And it ended. It was done, and that was all you heard of it. And it was a short, tight 5 seasons. Some argue that first season was slow. I'm not going to argue with them. I mean, for each person's thing.
Yeah.
But when you go into Lost introduced so many things that never got answered.
Yeah. The first season, you kind of expect it's going to be slow. Right?
Definitely.
You think because there's a build-up.
We're talking about Lost here, right?
Well,
or
in
just
most
anything.
series,
Right.
Like, because you can't just give it all away in the first season.
Yeah.
You want it to go at least 2 or 3, so that the amount of investment they put into the show does pay off.
Yeah.
Like I think 3 seasons is like your ideal if you could get to it in terms of a production standpoint.
yeah.
But then after that, that's when then the actors start asking for more money, and
Gets
this and this
expensive.
happens. Yeah, it gets expensive. Like I'm sure Friends could have gone for 20 seasons.
And they just do
It would
day
have
in
been
and day stuff.
garbage,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Well, you and I are adoring fans of Seinfeld. Hell,
Yeah.
I've got a Kramer poster right there. Did you watch Seinfeld? Do you like Seinfeld?
I've just seen like the occasional episode
Okay.
on TV.
Do you now? Okay, interesting thing. We'll talk about another thing. Actually, we'll leave that for another topic. We're going to talk about something else. We're going to keep on with this. Sorry, but even Seinfeld, the last season in particular, I was like,
Meh.
I was still watching it devotedly because I loved the show so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you really look back of it, didn't really need it.
Seinfeld was a bit of an anomaly though, because
100%. It was a show about nothing.
It was a show about nothing, but
Yeah.
you're like, but you could still watch it all the time now and
Yeah.
just still find the humor in it.
Yeah.
I would love to see what a Seinfeld nowadays would be like. It'd
Right,
be
right,
hilarious, but yeah, no, I
One
think
thing I also want to add on that I see over there, Family Guy.
Oh God, Family
Oh.
Guy's gone way too.
Yeah.
They should have.
Simpsons too.
Simpsons should have stopped a lot. Simpsons should have stopped at the movie,
Yeah,
and I think that was the original plan.
was-
and then they
right.
just kept
I
going.
think they're doing another movie now too.
They are, and then I think they're going to be done because the movie, from what they said, was a nightmare to do. Plus, they had the show on top of it. It wasn't like the show ended,
yeah,
and then the movie.
yeah.
But you bring up Family Guy.
And like everybody, like most people I've talked to, they're like, "Oh, Family Guy's so great, so funny." The humor for me died. But
Yeah.
one show I do like, and we both like, is American Dad.
Yeah.
Every time I watch it, I find it so hilarious.
I've tried, and because of you guys, I know you said watch it, and I've actually sat down. I've probably watched, I would say in total, maybe 12 episodes.
Okay, yeah.
And it's not bad. I don't have the same feeling as with the Family Guy, but how many seasons is American Dad
I
on?
think it's only like, I think it's just
7.
Is it 7?
Yeah, it's
But
7 or
it
8.
gets like it
It's
gets
getting
canceled like
Netflix.
yearly, then they go back.
Yeah. So maybe it's a little bit different because but I mean,
They have such good little one-liners, though,
Yeah.
and that's why I like it. It's similar to like Seinfeld,
Yeah.
where you'll have a one-liner and you'll just remember it, like how we'll go back and
we'll just reference Seinfeld in an
Seinfeld.
entire 3-day conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's his generation's animated Seinfeld, where there's
Okay.
there's a line that'll come up, and it's like
And
like
the
when
alien is
Steve gets his first pube, right? Like fire, right? Like I mean, it's just kind
And
of
I'm assuming the alien is Kramer.
the alien
Kind
will
of.
be more like Kramer, yeah, for sure. A little bit of Costanza in there too, which is
Costanza.
goofy,
But yeah, like I feel like there's like the Family Guys and the Simpsons, which were great at the time, but now there's like new shows like Rick and Morty, which is taking the world by storm just because of how like weird and like how out there it is.
I have to get on that.
I haven't seen
You
that.
messaged me that.
There's
the other
American-
day.
American Dad, which is like the new Family Guy,
Right.
City
Yeah.
creators. There's Archer, which is like
I love
Archer
Archer.
is so good. Some spy
I
show.
haven't seen that one.
It's getting, but Archer as well. It's
It's
getting to
getting
the
there.
point where
Yeah.
they're almost running out of stuff. Right?
Yeah.
They've almost made Archer a superhero where he doesn't die. He's been shot. He's been everything like that, and he doesn't die. But for there, you stick around because he's just so funny. And all I want every single time, and Soph hates it. Just
Yeah.
when he says Lana. when he says Alana every single time. And then so when I've had a couple of drinks, I just turn to her and I'm like, Alana. She hates it, but that's another show that's getting there.
Yeah.
And the model has changed because those were week to week.
Yeah.
So going back to when I was talking about the music thing, where it's like you had time to marinate on it. Most of the shows that we were able to see, even Game of Thrones too, it's a week to week thing, and you sit that whole week. And for Seinfeld, you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
But for Game of Thrones, you're theorizing for a whole week.
Yeah.
Now we've got the Netflix model where it's just boom,
Boom, boom, boom, boom.
8 hours here, 13 hours here, and so on and so forth.
And I hate that so
and
much.
you just binge. I do and I don't.
I'd rather just have it weekly. Like I wish they released Daredevil week by week, because then I would have actually watched it instead of like binging half the season and then waiting like a year and a half to finish it.
Yeah, but maybe the thing with that is if the episode's not that great, you might not go back because you're like, well, the last 2 episodes sucked, and you've wasted 2 weeks now waiting for it, as opposed to now it's like, well, it was 2 hours out of my life back to back.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting, and I'm actually curious to see how far they're going to get going, because all it is going to be is just content all the time.
Well, one more thing I kind of want to add before we kind of finish the show off.
Yeah.
If I didn't mention this, I'd feel really bad. 2 shows. One's a British show.
Okay.
It's called The In-Betweeners. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. They had like 2
No.
movies. It was the funniest show I've ever seen in my life. They only had 8 episodes per season. There's only 3 seasons, and they ended it.
Yeah.
And like it's a huge thing in the UK. Like everybody loves this show. And it was like I think 2 of the main actors are on a new Netflix show that just released recently. But it was stuff like they ended it. They didn't come back. They did 2 movies, and that was it. And I respect them for that. And another show, Community. I love the first 4 seasons. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I've heard of it.
Community's good.
But then they went on with the 5th and 6th, and I have not watched them because I heard they were garbage, and I don't want to ruin the show's perspective.
I didn't see the 6th. I stopped at halfway through the 5th, and I was like, I think I'm done with this.
Oh, wow.
And they went way too far.
Yeah.
They ran out of stuff to do. And the thing with the BBC, like you were talking about, I like the BBC because there's actually hour-and-a-half episodes. Like Sherlock, is 1 season has 3 episodes, but they're hour-and-a-half.
Yeah.
And so they fill what they need to fill. They have an idea of what's going on from start to finish. Yeah. But let us know what you think. Send me a tweet at the F words G. Make sure that you email us at the F word podcast at gmail.com. Put a like in the comment, or put a like on our YouTube. I'm like losing my mind right now. I'm just like thinking about other shows.
That the show's over.
Yeah,
That's why.
man.
I get it.
And then leave a comment in the YouTube. Let us know what you think. Has the MCU or the cinematic universes gone too far, and has TV just overstayed its welcome on some of these shows?
And a quick shout out to my designer who did my logo for the podcast, the WWF word, my logo for my Instagram page, and these nice shirts that we're all running.
Take a look at the shirts.
Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you,
These nice
Jacob.
shirts.
Well done, Jacob.
And if you guys want to see an interview on my page and kind of the podcast, you can go to Instagram at entertainment.finest. I'm sure I'll shout out on my actually Instagram page, but they did an interview for me. We talked about the podcast, about a bit about what I liked and disliked in movies and all that. So go check that out.
Awesome.
Gentlemen,
Been a blast
G.
as always.
been a blast. Episode 10 next week.
Yeah.
Go to
Double
enter-
digits.
Ty Dillinger, 10.
Follow Entertain Facts on Instagram. Again, get that Gmail, tweet at me. Ladies and gentlemen, we are out.